bojo, kwewag, nenawag guy, moka angi, the senders in a cause. Megaze and do them. And Mashkazi be and Donjaba. Dewaneni and Dow. My Anishinaabe name is Rising Sun. Was given to me by a Bad River elder many years ago. I'm Eagle Clan. I'm of the Bad River Band of Lake Superior, Ojibwe, and a member of the Grand Medicine Lodge, the Medewan. It's good to be here with you today. I've been given Sema, Indian tobacco, and asked to speak about our brother, Moingan. Maybe I should start by talking about the creation. The Great Spirit came down to the earth, took dust, took it back to sky world, breathed life into the dust of Mother Earth, creating Anishinaabe, spontaneous or original man. And then Gutsmanadu lowered Anishinaabe down to meet his mother. And so the first steps that he ever took was out of love and honor and respect, because the earth was his mother. And so it was the Great Spirit who sent a companion then to travel with Anishinaabe, Moingan.
Maingan, Brother Wolf, was funded in part by John and Carolyn Peterson Charitable Foundation, Bitzer Family Legacy Fund, Eleanor and Thomas Wildrick Family, Robert and Elke Hagee, National Endowment for the Humanities, Focus Fund for Wisconsin Programming, and Friends of Wisconsin Public Television.
Bidastige and go Mikasi and do dam. Mioma Bopashko Medite Gong and Duba. Mioma Nagachu Anung and Da Nungum. So my name is Thomas House. I'm Eagle Clan. I'm the Natural Resources Manager for the Fond du Lac Band at Lake Superior, Chippewa. Good morning, Tom. There's only so much of some traditional philosophies that are for public and for recording. And the old man that taught me this is from Red Lake, and I said, is this okay? Can I say this much? And he said, yeah. All of creation was being made in pairs so that they could perpetuate themselves. They all had partners. And so the birds and the deer and so on. And that original man was lonely. And so Creator kind of took pity on him. And said, well, I'll send someone. I've got work for you, but I'm going to send someone to keep you company. And that was Maingan. And they gave him instructions to walk the earth, to name everything, to describe everything. And Maingan didn't know what to think about this, and neither did this man, and they said, well, this is what Creator wanted. During that journey, the human, he decided to go across this frozen river. And when he crossed that frozen river, he broke through, and he was gonna drown, couldn't get out. And he asked that Maingan for help. And Maingan wasn't sure. He looked at him. He says, wow, I don't really owe you anything. But then he remembered what Creator told him, you guys walk together. And so he pulled and helped the man get out of that river. In traditional Ojibwe philosophy, everything is an exchange. If people do things for you, you owe them. If a plant does something for you, you owe that plant. And so in those times of need, when someone helps, Some people call it Ojibwe. Man decided that he really had a life debt. That's a way to look at it with that wolf. And from there, that's where they continued that walk around creation and really grew close because of that. That feeling that, you saved my life and I forever love you. That's the way I understand that part of the story as to why there's such a bond.
I'm Dylan Bijakin-Jennings. I am the Director of Public Information here at Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission, as well as an elected tribal council official for the Bad River Band. Maingin is a very delicate subject to talk about in our community because Maingin is equivalent to our brother, our relative. In our language we talk about Ndinaway Maganiduk, all of our relations, our relatives, and Maingin is one of those that we have a really, really tight-knit relationship with. And our struggle as Anishinaabe people is always the same thing, to get others to understand what that relationship is and why it is important to us. And so here, you grow up thinking that everybody knows about Maingin and how important and sacred Maingin is, and then you meet a lot of other people that really could care less and have no idea. It's kind of tough to reconcile that. I think that's why I've worked so hard my entire life so far to try and educate people in a friendly and compassionate way, to kind of reach out the hand and invite people to our community, invite people to our area to see some of the things that we do, to see how we live our lives, to see how we acknowledge this relationship of reciprocity that we maintain with everything in creation.
This one's finished. This was sitting in the closet. Nanaboju and Winona. My mother and my Aunt Teresa, they were artists, and my Uncle Fred and Uncle John were artists. My brother was too, but he gave it up young. You can smell the oil. I grew up around it. My mother was always painting, so I just, I don't know, as a teenager, just started. I'm 14. I was always drawing, though, cartoons and stuff, yeah. Well, there's stories out there. My mother told me a couple with Nanaboju. Those were my first stories. I've jumped a lot of paintings. I haven't had a dream in a while, but that's where the blue hair came from. They were like underwater and they were all blue, all the Minadu spirits. That's all that was there. And they're always the same ones. The four winds, the Gitche Minadu has always got a lot of hair. So this guy is just wrapped in hair in these dreams. Here I was, younger, doing, copying all this Greek mythology and, like digging the satyrs and the centaurs and all that stuff, and especially the satyrs, like Pan and stuff, and it's crossed over. That's just amazing. It's like it was waiting to come, And I said, well, there it is. Here I was trying to do Greek mythology, and I can do my own Anishinaabe. Because I got a lot of stories, but I don't, it takes so long to do these. If I really worked at it, I could do 3 paintings in a year, big paintings. When everything comes together for all people, not just the Native people. We'll see.
This video here, this is certainly one of our best videos. This is the only video at the time where we had all 8 members of the pack in the same frame, and you can see some of them are off on the right-hand side here. But one of the unique things is the collared female, there was only one part of this whole morning. They were outside in front of the camera for 4 hours that morning, and all of her yearling pups and the other adult members of the pack circled in front of the camera, but she kept avoiding the camera. So we were wondering if she knows it's there, she knows something isn't quite right. That's one of the exciting parts about doing this is trying to come up with questions and then trying to figure out how to answer them. My name is Jeremy St. Arnold. I'm the Assistant Wildlife and Forestry Biologist for Red Cliff. Our wolf research right now initially is just monitoring. We're doing trail camera work, we're also doing tracking, we're doing road surveys in the wintertime and doing some howling surveys in the summertime. and we're interested in looking at their pack dynamics, their prey selection, their habitat selection. We're also interested in kill sites and den sites. I know that the pack is as big as it's ever been as far as what the DNR knows, and since I've been here. The origin of the pack, as best we know, was around 2002 with 2 wolves, and it's kind of gone up and down, but right now it is at a peak of 13 wolves with 8 adults and there are 5 pups, and we verified those visually. We're going out, we're gonna set up some cameras, and we're looking for the den site, and we're tracking this female. And we keep getting a good solid ping from her, and then it'll disappear, and we're assuming she's going down into her den, and that's why she's fading in and out. And so we're using that in combination with coordinates that we've had from the previous month before that, when she was setting up the den and getting ready to deliver. And finally, after 4 hours, we're thinking, all right, we're just gonna set up some cameras on these trails. We're not gonna find the den today. We don't wanna, stress her too much. We don't wanna harass her. And then all of a sudden, Ron, the wildlife technician for Red Cliff, he says, what's that that's coming out from under the tree? And we look, and out from under this hemlock tree comes a wolf pup. But at first we couldn't tell, it just kind of looked like something waddling. And once we saw it was a wolf pup, first instinct for me, which apparently is not normal, was to just run and grab the pup. We had a plan to eventually get our hands on the pups, and we wanted to pit tag them, look over their general condition, get an idea of how many males and females, whether they had any parasites or anything like that. I brought it back to Ron, we were checking it over, and then we noticed there's 4 more pups that came out from under this tree. So we ended up catching 1 male and 1 female, and they were in fantastic condition. They didn't have any parasites, no ticks, no fleas, nothing of that nature. They were as clean and healthy as any pup that you're gonna find at somebody's house. So we were really excited to see that. And when we released them, we noticed that Mom circled back around, and we're assuming she reclaimed them because she came so quickly to that area. So those myths that you hear about parents wanting to abandon their young, they put way too much time and effort and energy and just their life into this to just give up like that. But that was certainly the best day we've had so far in any of our wolf activities. That one kind of made it all worthwhile.
Our people have a lot of important traditional ecological knowledge that stems from thousands of years of observation within our ancestral homelands. Today, when a scientist comes up with some study and provides empirical data, people really have a hard time questioning that because it's science, right? This traditional ecological knowledge that our people maintain is what scientists call phenology nowadays. It's data, it's also observation, and it's exactly what scientists do as well. It just dates back even further than what modern day scientists work with. So when you talk about traditional ecological knowledge, a scientist goes, oh, okay, yes, I know what that is. But to us, it's Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, our teachings, our way of life.
There's a coyote in the one, deer, there's a bear. You can see its nose. I don't know if anybody wants to peek at it. You can see the bear came up and sniffed the camera. He's got his eyeball in it on that one. Bears really like to come and investigate our cameras, and they, if I accidentally have any scent from the beaver on there, they will really sniff at it and they will rub it on themselves. Anytime we I first started setting up trail cameras in June 2014. We initially, for the first 6 months, had tremendous luck. We were getting as many photos as we could possibly want. And then, as luck would have it, as soon as I switched over to the cameras that have video, which I was very excited about, I thought, oh, it's gonna be easy. We'll get all these wolf videos. We had 2 years where we didn't have wolves show up on camera. We knew they were there, we saw their sign, and they just kept eluding me. Part of it is when we first started using the cameras that had video, they were using white flash, and it never occurred to me that white flash was going to be limiting in terms of trying to get wolf footage. But it turns out that of all the species out there, they have shown the most sensitivity to that white light. The coyotes don't seem to shy away from it for very long. Marten will go right up into the flash. Deer don't seem to be very fazed by it. Bears aren't fazed by it, but wolves, they kind of just freak out. You will not get activity at that camera from wolves. But one of the cameras that has a covert IR or a black flash, they will show up at that camera. So we just were persistent, we kept at it, and we started getting all kinds of wolf videos. We have hours and hours now of not just photos, slideshows, but videos as well. And I've had people come up and express gratitude for the fact that there are the videos on YouTube now, because now they can share that with people and say, hey, look at this amazing thing that Red Cliff has, and look at all the wildlife that we have, and we have this amazing species that we thought was gone and they're back, and now we can try to keep them here. It's been very positive. I've been very impressed with that, because nowadays wolves are a very polarizing topic. You don't know if you're going to get hatred, you don't know if you're going to get the fear and uncertainty from people that don't know much about them, or if you're going to get just this blind love and loyalty that comes from the pro-wolf side. I'm obviously pro-wolf, but I don't want to go too far on that side. I have to be scientifically rigorous about things, so I still have to go and investigate if they do depredate an animal or if they are harassing a house, and I still have to try to help out the human aspect of it too. Beaver activity there, where they've chewed off some of the bark and they chewed that tree down. Wolves, when they come into an area that they haven't previously been in before, they impact absolutely everything. They're apex predators. They can help stabilize beaver populations. And once beaver populations are stabilized, you can get improved river conditions. They can change the temperatures of the water, make streams better for trout. They can allow vegetation to come back to river corridors. And once that vegetation comes back, you can reduce your sediment loading in your rivers. You can increase the number of nesting bird species that come into those areas. And it also keeps your deer herds healthier. It's not just that they're at more stable levels for the vegetation, but they will take out the old and the weak and the sick, and then all of a sudden you have a fit deer population, which is obviously a better population to have.
We're very fortunate to where we, as the Bad River Band, have been able to build up our natural resources department and really making it a strong entity for protecting everything that means the world to us. Creating a Maingin plan to help protect Maingin, to integrate that TEK, that traditional ecological knowledge, into the more technical templates that your typical biologist might utilize. It's a very beautiful dialogue when a biologist sits down with one of our Gichiayag, our elders, and they sit down together and they talk about things, because they teach each other.
I thought the idea of a wolf management plan, it's going to be loved, it's going to be well received. The tribe is obviously pro-wolf. It never crossed my mind that management was going to be a taboo word. But it turns out that some people look at it as, you're trying to manage your brother or control your brother, and that seems like an inappropriate thing. That's not a natural thing, as opposed to just coexisting with your brother and trying to be a steward of your brother, set them up for success. That's all we're really trying to do. We're trying to protect their habitat, because they can succeed on their own. They don't need us for that. That's why we ended up settling on wolf protection plan, because ideally we wanted to be stewards of the wolf population, but we ultimately want to protect it as well. The reservation is listed as a wolf sanctuary, so it's a place where wolves are not allowed to be trapped, they're not allowed to be harmed or harassed, so that tribal members and people that visit the reservation can have these opportunities to see these animals and hear these animals, and just to know they're there. There's something to be said just for knowing they're there and that they're performing their ecological function. There's a value, an inherent value in that.
I just had this idea of the last water hole. There's 11 diminutives I always use. Those are the ones I've always seen in dreams. So I figured out who they were, because usually the winds are blowing air like Botticelli's. Yeah. They're not people, they're spirits. Except for he's half. Bojo. That's his grandmother, and Nicholas. That's the north wind. That's the south wind. That's the west wind. That's his dad. One day she was picking berries in a field, and sudden gust of wind. That was it, conception of Nanovoja. Anyway, they're sitting around this water hole. It's the last water hole, and they're creating a new earth. I'll make the grid on here bigger. That takes a while to figure the scale out. And then I'll just transfer them.
What we always tell our children is that our stories are so important because they teach us how to be. You can listen to a story like how this place was created. You can listen to a story about Maingin. And if you listen to it one time, you might get something out of that. You might learn something about yourself. But you go and you listen to it again, and you pick up something completely different that you would have never have thought of before. And that's how our way of life is. We don't just sit down and read a book and then know all of our stories and what to draw out of them. We spend our life learning about these things. Hey, get the tongue, get the tongue. We try to speak to our daughter in the language as much as possible. She loves stories, almost 1 year old now, but she loves just listening to stories. So that's how we're gonna battle some of the things that our people are up against these days. It's our stories, our teachings, our way of life that are gonna save our children as they become rooted in their identity and know who they are. That's what's gonna help us.
Bonjour, bidabanu kwen dishinakas, nagizi endu dam, metawinga endunjaba. My English name is Wanda McFagan. I come from the Magizi clan, the Eagle clan. Sand Lake community is my home within the St. Croix Reservation. I'd like to tell a story about the wolf, Meagan, and how he came to be with us here on Earth. When the Creator first formed the land here, the last one that he lowered down to the earth was Anishinaabe, original man. Anishinaabe asked the Creator, why did he put him here alone? So then after the Creator thought about it, the Creator gave him a companion, and that companion was a wolf, Meagan. When they had walked here together, they became very close, like brothers. And we still consider Meagan to be our brother today. After their journey was done, the Creator had told them that they have to go to separate paths, but they would always stay close. He told them what will happen to one will also happen to the other. That was true. Because if you look back in our history, we lost a lot of our land, we lost a lot of our way, to the point where we almost became extinct, assimilated. And if you look back on Meagan's history, you can see the same. Anytime that I see Meagan, I put tobacco down out of respect. We have to take care of him, because if he vanishes, who knows? We may vanish too.
And his face, does he look big? Maybe his forehead, huh? Right here. Bring it down a touch. These are all the minidoos I use every time. Someone said, how come we don't put more women in? I said, well, there's Nokomis and Winona and then two of the winds. I can't make all the winds women. In this one, I made the eyes of the dead a woman. Usually that was a man, but it doesn't matter. Eyes of the dead, that's just the past. It's always there. It's always present. That's just the eyes of all the native and indigenous people who have died in the taking of this country. It's a reminder. Nokomis, that means grandmother. Very wise old woman. Basically, just all our oral traditions go back with her, being the grandmother and bringing up Nanabuju. Up here they say Winnabuju. It's not about me or anybody else. This will be here for the youth, you know, of tomorrow, the 8th generation. And now, and the ancestors. That's what all my work's for. That's it. It's for the present, the past, and the future, which all exists now anyway, right? We don't have a past and future without the present. It's all here. Right?
So here we have the Kakagan Sloughs pack, we've got the Little Girls Point, Morrison Creek pack, West Fire Lane pack, and then the Potato River pack. Yeah, the purple line is the boundaries of the Bad River Reservation, and then the red line is this proposed 6-mile buffer in our wolf plan. I'm Lacey Hill Castern. I am the Wildlife Program Manager for the Bad River Tribe. I started working for the tribe back in 2010, so I've been here for 7 years now. And basically I oversee the entire wildlife program for the reservation, and part of that is wolf monitoring. So we actually started monitoring for wolves, trapping and radio collaring wolves back in 1996. So the tribe's been doing that work for 21 years now. We want to protect the wolves on the reservation, but we also want to look at neighboring landowners and like other agencies as well, because the wolves, they don't know political boundaries. So they're coming on and off reservation, and we can put whatever we want in for protection for them on reservation, but we have 4 packs of wolves and they go on and off reservation, so our protections aren't good enough to protect those tribal wolf packs. So we really want to work with the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources and also neighboring landowners too, and just like how do they feel about wolves, and kind of explain to them why it's important to protect at least these tribal wolves. Maingan is very important to the Ojibwe culture and is seen as a brother. The Creator told them that they needed to walk in separate paths, but what happened to one would happen to the other. So that's really important for a lot of the Ojibwe people.
That story in Maingan, that's something that we try to raise all of our children around in our communities to understand those relationships. The relationship of reciprocity with everything in creation, and especially those things that have walked that path with us. Maingan is one of those beings that has always been there by our side and has also been there to watch out for us, much like it's our responsibility today to watch out for him as well, because our lives parallel each other. In our tribal communities, we have leadership that is tasked with the responsibility of taking care of our people and watching out for our people. Maingan in their communities, you know, they do the same as we would do in our tribal community. You know, watching out for one another, taking care of each other, feeding each other. Very similar things that I don't think a lot of people think about as much.
So this is a regular VHF collar. So this is typically what we use to collar wolves. This is what's been used for collaring wolves for many years. This will go on the animal. This VHF portion will hang on the bottom, and this is what emits the radio signal. We work closely with the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources for radio tracking efforts. This is the time of year that we typically trap. A lot of the traps we actually set right on the roads because we have a lot of back roads on the reservation, and the wolves use the roads a lot as travel corridors. We use foothold traps, and they're designed just to grab the wolf by the toes, between the foot pad and the toe pads, so it doesn't injure the wolf. Once the wolf steps in that trap, it'll grab between those pads, and then it's on a drag system, so the wolf can actually pull the trap and run into a more wooded area, and then it's got a grapple hook on a chain that'll tangle around a tree or vegetation and hold the wolf there until we get there. Wolves are pretty docile in the trap. They'll usually just be laying there. We use a ketamine-xylazine mixture to mobilize, and then we'll put the radio collar on them and then give them a reversal drug, and then just let them wake up and continue to monitor them and make sure everything's okay.
I've got some smelly products underneath that rock that when a wolf is traveling these roads at night and smell that, in order for them to really get to what they're smelling, they're gonna have to come up to this rock here and place a foot. Ideally, right here is where they're gonna place a foot to brace themselves and then reach and move the rock or nuzzle the rock with their nose, and ideally that's where their foot's gonna be, is where the trap is set right now, and then they'll be caught. If a wolf comes in here and works a set, you can see its tracks really well. And so that's something we're looking for. And then also, if you're unfortunate enough, the wolves will taunt you sometimes, and they will literally come up and turn around and they'll drop a scat right on the trap bed. They came in, they smelled your bait or their lure, they weren't impressed, and they left you their calling card, I guess.
We do have lone wolves on the reservation. They kind of skirt the boundaries between the packs, go further in another pack's home range, but they usually don't stay there for too long. We had one collared wolf that we collared back in 2010, my first year working here, and he had dispersed after about 2 months of me being here, and he actually started a new pack down in the Rice Lake area. So it was really interesting because of the radio collars, we're actually able to see where some of these individuals are going. One of my wolves, we had collared this individual down here, and that's why there's a lot of points in that area, because I was getting locations every 3 hours after the collaring had occurred. And then this blue area actually covers 180 square miles, which average home range is like 40 to 80 square miles. And he was covering 180. It was just insane. But then he ended up joining the Potato River Pack. But late winter, around February, is when they're breeding. He would take a hike down to the Mercer area. So he'd be down there for a couple of weeks and he'd come back to the Potato River Pack area, which was fascinating.
And then I'll just work on this little section right here. That's where I was. Oh. Maxwell Parrish would use ink on his. And there's no problem with this. I can just go around it. I don't have to go over it or anything. And when I glaze it, I can just glaze around it with a transparent glaze. The technique is really old. Leonardo used it and Maxwell Parrish used it. It's seeing the light through one color, going through another color, and it just changes it into a nice mix. It's actually using light to mix. On this one, I'm going to use 2 glazes, I think, 2 grounds. I'm going to use a blue for the skin, and then the rest I'm going to use like a Naples yellow and a burnt sienna. Find a medium in there, a nice color, a nice hue, I mean. Okay, I'm done with that. I'm going to go up here. It's shadowy up here. These are all Miniduke. I just put them in human form. Jawani, and the 4 winds are right there. And Amboge's moon. That's his light for the night. And the only reason I figured out he's a moon is he had a tattoo of a moon on his face. I think it's just a passion now. It's not even about what other people think. I would do it anyway.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Woo! All right. I'm working on planning a big educational event for Wolf Awareness Week in October. We have a program through our Natural Resources Department that once a month we try to have these different activities to get youth more involved in the natural resources. So far I've done the VHF tracking with them, and we've done some winter tracking, and I'd really like to get some kids out and do some wolf howling. So anywhere from 3 to 11 wolves. So is Edith there?
I've been asked to come in and tell everybody a little bit about Maingan. Now we know she's been saying wolf, wolf, wolf. In our language, the word for it is Maingan. Can everybody say that? Maingan. Right on. There's a story about Maingan, and the story has to do with a person. His name was Anishinaabe. And he asked the creator of all living things, can I have somebody to walk with me? And so the creator sent Maingan. And Maingan and Anishinaabe walked together for the longest time. But there came a time when they had to part their ways. They came to a fork in the road, that they had to leave each other's. But Maingan said, I will always be there for you. And Anishinaabe said, I'll always be there for you too. And whatever happens to you will happen to me. So we always look at Maingan And we remember that time that we walked with Maingen. And we take care of Maingen because we remember what happens to Maingen will happen to us.
You know, I wanted to be a wildlife biologist ever since I was a little girl, so actually being it now and getting to go out and study wolves and study eagles, it's awesome. It was really fascinating when I was working on the wolf plan and seeing that, wow, in 1996, we already had 3 packs on the reservation. That's amazing. So because I think in the state of Wisconsin in 1996, the population was only around 300, and now we're at around 925. And even 21 years ago, we already had those 3 packs established on reservation.
Despite what's out there in popular culture and books, you see a lot of Maingen being portrayed as, you know, the Little Red Riding Hood wolf, and you see a lot of movies about werewolves and other things that really do spook people and freak people out. But we were always taught not to be afraid of that. That when they presented themselves to us to be seen, that it was a blessing, and it was a gift. You put down your tobacco, that those ones were part of our way of life, part of a very, very important part of creation, and that it was a gift to have an encounter with Maingen.
I see gentleness. I don't see this Red Riding Hood version. And I'm not sure why stories like that came about. We don't read those kind of stories because they just give a bad light on our relative. They make him seem like don't leave your child outside because he'll come and snatch him or something. You know, they make him out to be something that I don't believe he is. They're beautiful. Just their whole characteristic and how they care for their babies. They're very protective of their babies. They don't want nobody to hurt them, but they won't hurt some of us around their babies because there's that trust. And I believe somewhere in the back of Mayengen's mind, all through their ancestry, I think they remember how they walked with us. So when I see one, I put tobacco down. I've taken my grandson to zoos and we see them back and forth, back and forth. And that's hurtful because they shouldn't be there like that. They weren't meant to be there like that.
And so the Great Spirit gets him on a deal. Told both Anishinaabe and Mayengen, in many ways the two of you are alike. When you take a mate, it will be for life. Both of you will be excellent hunters. And then Gitzimanadu also spoke of prophecy, telling of a time when others may come among you. Both of you will be hunted for your hair. Mayengen for his hide, Anishinaabe for his scalp. The Great Spirit told both Anishinaabe and Mayengen of 7 prophecies. And so today we've entered into the age of the 7th fire. Nejwashwa Iskade 1. When human beings encroach upon Mayengen's territory, Mayengen retreats further and further into the wilderness. And so the time may come when there will be no wilderness. If that time comes, you, Mayengen, you'll pass out of existence. you'll become extinct. And so you Anishinaabe, if your brother Moingan passes out of existence, you'll soon follow. You will die of great loneliness of spirit.
So now we're waiting to see clusters from the satellite collar. And if we see a number of them in one tight area in a short period of time, we know that it's most likely either they have a kill there or they have a den or rendezvous site there. And these rendezvous sites are where they like to bring the pups when they're done with the den. Once the pups are mobile and they refuse to stay in the den and they're starting to eat meat and roam around. And so often at these rendezvous sites, you can find bones that are chewed up with little puppy teeth marks on them. I've heard of people finding traffic cones, plastic bottles, anything a puppy would chew on at home, a wolf pup is not above chewing on it as well. And there's generally going to be one member of the pack that's kind of acting as a nanny there. And that could be male, female, an older wolf, a younger wolf. They seem to take turns doing it. I think that's why historically the tribes looked at them as being the brother of Native Americans, because there's just so many things about them that are similar. I mean, we always say that it takes a village to raise children, and with a wolf pack, they absolutely use that principle. Every single member of the pack takes some kind of role in raising those pups, whether it's just leading them on a hunt, being a nanny for a little bit, bringing back food, and the way that they try to keep track of each other. They always want to know where each other are. So there's almost unlimited numbers of parallels between humans and wolves if you're really willing to look for them and be honest about it.
Marvin Defoe lived in the woods, my family. So I've had many encounters with the mine gun. Met face to face with mine gun one time. We must both hit that trail at the same time. It's about from me to you, and we both just looked in each other's eyes for about 5 seconds, you know, and he took off one way, I took off another way. You know, I think it startled both of us.
Ooh, she's actually closer than I thought. I'd say she's probably no more than half a mile away from us right now. We've definitely cut down some of the distance. We are closer. And it sounds like she's just off of this trail. My guess is that if we start walking up this trail, she's going to try to circle around us and try to get a good idea of what we are. And then she'll probably move off a little further. But there's a chance we can find some tracks up here and try to get a pack count potentially. She's been hanging out in this general area, so there's either a food source nearby or there's a chance she's looking for a new den, because we would expect her to be having pups within the next couple of weeks or so. She already started to circle us. She's crossed over to this side of the trail though, for sure. What we see is we have a number of individuals that have come together after fanning out, and once they hit this deeper snow, they converge into a single file line, which is very typical of wolves, and they're trying to take the path of least resistance, so that the one in the front breaking trail is the one expending the most energy, and the rest of them can just fall in line. And you'll see this, the deeper the snow gets, the more you'll see this type of behavior where they want to go single file, and then once the snow is gone or it's melting, they'll be more likely to fan out and they'll cover more distance. But we can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sets of tracks converging on this first path. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 converging on this. You can see my hand fits right inside there.
Then I remember one time I had a dog, we called him Blizzard, next to our house every night. Mine gun, they'd holler over there. So I watched that dog one time going over there, so I got down my hands and knees, I followed that dog over to that pack of wolves and come right in there. Didn't fight or didn't holler or just watching there, just living. Yeah, so when you live in the woods or you live amongst them, I've had nothing to be afraid of. You know, I've never had a bad experience, you know, with the mine gun, all my encounters. And even seeing a little litter of their pups, watching them.
As we were following a set of tracks, there was about 1.5 to 2 feet of snow, and we saw one area that didn't have any snow in it, and then we saw a head poke up, and that's how we knew right away that we had found the den. Then it was a mad scramble to try to catch all the little guys because they all went in different directions. Ron, you go that way, you grab these guys, I'll grab these guys. And, all right, we got them corralled, but those two escaped again. So when we were trying to make sure that they were staying warm, whenever we had one that we were done checking over, Ron would take it and put it in his coat. And so at the end, he's got 6 pups in his coat and they're crawling up his back. And can't exactly get him out of there very easily, but at the same time, it's a pretty fun problem to have.
This is another aspect of the dreams that I kept, was the blue hair. I couldn't really make out any detail. I could see hair though. And it just looked like they were in a lot of wind, so I tried to figure out a way to do that, and that's where I started using hair as wind and buckskin for direction. That came after I stopped using reference. I stopped copying things. And so it was like a 4-year transition into accepting what I could do on my own, and then the dream started. And at first it was just like a regular dream, and I didn't know what the heck it was, but then when they started repeating, it was kind of strange. Apparently I wake up in my sleep and draw. It's a scribble. I have a few of those. I don't know where they are right now. But the style lends itself to doing anything, like just me making something up. Like this was the idea of the last water hole. You know, there's no more, and so they're creating a new world out of this. So it's like a combination of the Earth Hunters, creation of a new world. You know, it's all going into this. I'm taking, people from the traditions and putting it into something new. I think being traditional, if you don't add anything to it, it's just going to die. So, I bring new things in. I don't know. People don't have to like it. It doesn't matter.
And so in those prophecies, the Great Spirit said that in the age of the 7th fire that a new people would arise. The new people would turn and look back. They would retrace their footsteps that would take them back to ancient times and ancient knowledge. They'd pick up the sacred bundles that have fallen by the wayside to get the teachings and the meanings of these bundles. They'd go to certain elders who had taken them underground for generations because of persecution. So they say that Anishinaabe were given a very special gift. We refer to it as mashkiki. Loosely interpreted in our language, it means medicine. Along with that medicine goes a responsibility. And that responsibility is to go out and educate others as to how to live in harmony and balance with the natural world.
Many of our elders will talk about that, about how we really had to put things, our way of life, our ceremonies, everything underground and hold it close because it was really being forcefully ripped from us. And it's not like that anymore. But it's a long journey to bring that stuff back. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to rebuild your language infrastructure. It takes a lot to bring our ceremonies back. It takes a lot of time, a lot of sacrifices. And now we see Maingin, and the population has been doing pretty well, making its way back, but now different entities want to put an end to that and stop some of that thriving, and that's a scary thought to us. Because as our communities start to do better, as we bring back our way of life and bring it back strong as we can, we think about that too. What's going to happen to Maingin.
Even though I grew up in between 2 reservations and I'm Native American myself, I wasn't raised with any of the traditions or any of the stories. I wasn't raised hearing about how important wolves were and the spiritual connection. I wasn't raised learning anything about the clans or anything like that. And since I've started working for Red Cliff, we've come to learn a lot about that. Some of it I've learned on my own, some of it with Ron. We've attended events, we've talked to some elders, tried to learn the language a little bit more so we can understand a little bit of that aspect of it. We try to lay down tobacco when an animal has to be harmed or when we find one that met a bad time. I think we've learned from each other, we've learned from the tribe, and certainly learned a lot from the animals. We've been humbled by them more times than we can probably count. Yeah. They made us realize that no matter what we read, those animals are not going to ever be put into some little box. There's no black and white, there's a lot of gray area with animals. They don't care what the literature says.
So given some thought to that story of the Maingan, it just comes up with a word that I think of is Anishinaabe Zichigewin. Zichigewin. It's that you don't just talk about or read about something, you live it, you practice. And along with that practice is you show respect. Every living thing there is on this earth. And when you make your moccasin tracks, you be careful so that when you look back, you can say you left some good tracks so that 7 generations ahead, they too can make their moccasin tracks. But that story, the Anishinaabe and the Maingan, if you know the story and you follow the teaching, that Maingan's my brother, my own flesh and blood, my brother, that's my brother. I love him as a family. And that is the essence of the feeling of a Anishinaabe. We talk about that Maingan, that's my brother. That's my brother.
There, that's good. I'll put it high just in case I pull it. And I'm going to put Ojibwe over there. Rabbit and Ojibwe. Ojibwe because I'm part of something bigger than me. I've always done that since I was 15, so. I just want to make the point that I'm just a part. I'm not it. I didn't dream this, it's just a creation. I have no idea why I did this. A collective consciousness, yeah. The idea of the last water hole. They're creating a new world there, that's the turtle. Maybe it's kind of like up in what's in the news, huh? But I beat it out, and this is the last water hole. And all that's left is a spirit. No people.
And so we're living in very historic times now. And it's predicted that in the age of the 7th fire, that all humankind would come to a fork in the road and would be confronted with a choice. It was said that one fork in the road would be a hard surface, and the other fork in the road would be a more natural path. Today we see that hard surface that pollutes and destroys and upsets the natural balance. Mother Earth, the plants, the animals, the water, the air. In this 11th hour of a very serious environmental crisis, we say Gawin, and that means no, it's not going to happen. We will win this battle. Miigwech, Mia. Ahau.